Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. Sit back, relax, enjoy, and stay sinful. Tonight's video features deep web scary stories. Many of you believe none of these stories have any truth or bearing, but I know there are a lot of people out there that really enjoy and really dig these stories. So let's get started. Story number 1. I took a little break for a few days before I decided to go back in the true red rooms. I paid my Bitcoin and got a sent password. It took a few days before they sent it to me along with another username. I guess this is how they managed to keep it so secretive, so that way people couldn't be tracked. I put in my username and password on the first page. The particular red room number 2 brought you to another page that asked for a password. So instead of one page, it went through 2, I guess for extra protection. A bright red screen flashing big bold black letters read, Live Dissections Inc. Underneath the black box was a list of IP addresses that were recorded. Beside each one were the words permitted or banned. I assume some people abused their privilege on this site, or possibly tried to hack it. They wanted those people to know they were being watched. As for the rules on the written site, they were simple. Number 1, you can pick and choose from a list of surgical tools. There were cranium drills, bone saws, rib knives, and all types of cutting and dissecting instruments. The list went on and on. Number 2, you must keep paying Bitcoin to keep playing. You communicate what you want to the victim through the chat box. You are not allowed to chat with other users or make comments to them. 5 users popped up in the chat box, including me. Your waiting time is 5 minutes popped up on the black screen. Then the live stream began to start. I took a deep breath. A man who is obviously sedated is lying in what looks like a green dentist chair. He is in a hospital gown. His wrists and ankles are strapped down. 2 people in doctor's scrubs and masks were injecting him in the arm with 2 different needles. Then the messages started popping up on the chat box. One user typed, "I want to see an amputation of the arm, please." Another said, "Drill his head open and pull his skin down over his face, like they do with autopsies." Another user wanted a complete organ dissection. Other users typed in foreign language that I couldn't understand. I think I'm going to throw up. I could clearly see the poor man had labored breathing. They must have had him really sedated. All of these people were sickly bidding on what they wanted to see. The surgery that won was the arm amputation. I was glad I would not have to view the other 2. I don't think I could have stomached it. The user, C Dead Riser 5893, must have paid the most Bitcoin. I saw one of the surgeons grab a scalpel as camera zoomed in. Then he began to cut through the man's hairy arm right above the elbow. Oh my God. The guy was alive and dark red blood started gushing out of his arm onto the floor. You could see the muscle twitching underneath as the camera zoomed in on the pink, fleshy, bloody mass. Now, C Dead Riser 5893 was typing in the chat box. "Yes, oh yes, this is fucking amazing. I'm getting off right now on this shit." What looked to be a huge towel or gauze pad was placed between the cut, open tissue, and stuck in completely through the arm. You could see it hanging out the other side. The hairs on my neck began to stand up. He then began to move it back and forth through the tissue in a sawing motion. He was cutting the remaining attached tendons and ligaments, I guessed. Suddenly the man started to wake up and moan in pain. His eyes looked a bit squinty. He looked down and literally passed out. They injected him again with the needle. I wanted to look away. Another user named Urgent Surge 666, who seemed to know all the steps of the amputation, typed, "Use the bone saw and cut it off." Now what looked to be a bone saw was picked up. It looked very eerie with its sharp little teeth like points. The surgeon gave a thumbs up to the camera and began to saw straight through. The saw hummed as I could see little particles of white bone going up in the air. Scissors were used to finish cutting away the globs of flesh still left in place, and just like that the arm was pulled away. The surgeon tossed it towards the camera. It hit the ground with a loud splat. I wanted to turn the computer off. Our victim was now an amputee. There was a lot of blood coming out. The victim started turning an ashen gray color. This guy was going to die and bleed out. "Do you want the artery to be clamped off or do you want him to bleed out?" popped up on the message in the chat box. One person typed, "No." CDead Riser 5893 said, "Let him bleed out. He's not going to wake up after all of this." I couldn't believe how casual he was about leading this man to his impending death. I found myself yelling at the computer, "Clamp it off! Clamp it off!" I knew I wanted results I would have to pay more Bitcoin, so I did. I typed in "clamp it, save his life." I was this poor guy's lifeline, while he was at the mercy of a bunch of crazy people who wanted him dead. My heart was beating out of my chest. I was sweating, about to have a panic attack. "Kelly clamps," shouted the surgeon. I felt relief as he clamped the bleeding artery off. Thank God. Then the nub was dressed with gauze to stop any extra bleeding. The worst part was when the guy finally woke up. He was laying there for about 15 minutes and the surgeons were slapping him on the face and laughing. He was coming to and in shock. I could see the surgeons undoing the straps and helping him sit up. How the hell could they laugh at what they had just done to this poor man? They almost killed him and took a part of his body away for no damn good reason. For what? All for the expense of someone else's pleasure. Made me sick. The man looked down and his eyes bulged out of his head. He looked to be in disbelief. "My arm!" he shouted, with a hoarse-sounding voice. I could see the nub moving as he was trying to figure out where his arm went. His mouth hung wide open. The surgeons were patting him on the back, and he began to cry. One of the surgeons motioned for the camera to be shut off. Everything went black. The live stream was over. I shuddered. Unfortunately, I still had 3 more rooms to go. Story number 2. Hello, my name is Scott. I was recently diagnosed with depression, so my life has really been bad recently. I still can't explain what happened to me yesterday. I don't think I'm safe right now, so I'm just going to get this out. Hopefully people will learn from this Reddit post to never go on the dark web. It was Sunday, May 12th, 2019, Mother's Day. Sadly, my mother died 7 years ago. Since I have nothing to do, I invite some friends over. Let me tell you that this friend was a ghost hunter. He basically loved all things scary. Fast forward 2 hours and me and my friend are sitting at my computer, contemplating what we should do. My friend, being the bold man he is, gives a genius idea to go on the deep web. Now this is where I should have shut it down, but I was fairly drunk and bored, so fuck it. We go on some chatting deep web video with a random person with the username Dead and Decay. Stupid, I know. The user seems to be a male aged 20 to 25. He is out of the pitch black walking to what seems to be his home. The odd thing that I noticed was that he was holding something on his shoulder. "Hey, can you keep a secret?" He says, "Sure, man. What's up?" My friend says, "I just killed someone." He said some pretty graphic stuff after this. I'll spare you the details of what he said. My friend isn't fazed by this comment. I, however, am pretty spooked by this, mostly by the bag that he is carrying. He then comes to a sudden stop and drops a bag in what seems to be a backyard. This looks very similar to my backyard. I know this because there is a very big hole with a patch of dirt which is where I had buried my dog last year. Out of curiosity, I got up out of my chair and went downstairs out to the back door. Me, being the drunken idiot that I was, didn't bring a knife or my friend. Just a dusty-ass flashlight. What I saw when I walked outside still haunts me. I was hit with a rotten smell. I saw a skinny man digging out a hole where my dog was and taking his decaying body out of its resting place and putting another body in there in its place. I tried to chase after him, but it was no use. I called the police, but nobody believed me. It was now 9 a.m. and I didn't go to work today. I'm writing this now because I think he's coming back to finish the job. Update. It's now 3:30, and I've seen the same white van pass my house 5 times. It seems as if the driver is scoping out my house. These may be my last minutes. If I don't make it, spread the word. Update number 2. The van is parked outside my door and a man is walking out of it, coming up to my front door. I have my .44 caliber gun at my hip while typing this. The man is fiddling with my front doorknob. I feel as if these are my final breaths. I feel like ending it now and jumping out the window. Story number 3. My name is Melanie, and right now things are not looking good for me. I know this isn't going to end well, but I might as well recount these past events to you while I still have time. Not that it will matter in the grand scheme of things. However, I will at the very least have an opportunity to notify my loved ones of the nature of my imminent disappearance, as well as have some peace of mind that I can prevent the suffering of others who might attempt to follow in my footsteps. Now that you've heard my motivations, now that there is nothing you can do to prevent what is about to occur, let me tell you about my encounter with a classmate who was a deep web killer. It all transpired 3 weeks ago. I was sitting in my bedroom on a Sunday night, eyes glued to my computer monitor, scrolling through useless posts on Instagram and checking the occasional message that popped up, which was about every 5 minutes. Most of the notifications were mundane, such as a girlfriend wanting to know if I would be available next weekend, and a steady stream of likes pouring in for my new post. Like I said, nothing out of the ordinary, and it became pretty mind-numbing quickly. I wanted to find something to engage me, something to give me a sense of danger and help me pass the time. I turned to surfing the deep web. I had heard about it from some of the tech junkies from my classes, and honestly it sounded pretty far-fetched, but I was bored and desperate to find adventures, so I opted to give it a try. It's funny the decisions you make when you feel that there's nothing to do, like there's anything else in the world you'd rather be doing than nothing. In those moments, I believe people make the worst decisions, the ones they end up regretting the most. That certainly is the case for me. Anyhow, as I was delving into the more sinister part of the deep web, I came across a site by the name of Bloodlust. I became curious and thought, why not? So I clicked the space that said enter. A login page was presented, and I had the option of choosing returning member or new member. I selected the one titled new member and entered a fake username and a flimsy password. From there I was taken to a main page which showed a variety of brutal killings, ranging from stabbings to decapitations. I was put off at first, but my morbid curiosity usurped my apprehension, and I soldiered on. I went from video to video, disgust slowly growing in the pit of my stomach, and my faith in humanity withering away. But the thing that really pushed me over the edge was when I clicked on one of the current live streams. The picture on the screen was somewhat grainy, but I could still make out the figure of a man bound to a wooden chair. The man was struggling and desperately trying to break free from the rope that bound him to the chair's back. A few minutes later, a person wearing all black and a ski mask came into view, holding a large butcher knife. The person wearing the ski mask gave a nod to the camera and started to flay the man tied to the chair, alive. This sick bastard started with his face. The screams emitted by the man were unlike any human wails I've ever heard. They resonated through the room they were in, and only seemed to amplify once his captor started on his torso. After a grueling 30 minutes, the individual wearing the ski mask pulled the gasping man's head up by his hair and viciously slit his throat. I was stunned, but the worst part was when the murderer took off his ski mask and ended the video. The video was stopped on the face of Jacob, one of my classmates who I never thought capable of anything like this. I sat there in shock. There was no way that one of the people I knew for most of my life could have done this. There was simply no way. I even tried convincing myself that this was some sick joke, or that it must have been a coincidence. But the more I stared at his remorseless face on the screen, the more certain I became that this was certainly no joke. I got up and in a trance-like state, shut off my PC and climbed into bed, thinking of how I was going to face him tomorrow. Thanks for watching, guys. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos in the future. Be sure to keep your notifications on. I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Until we meet again, stay sinful.